Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Dr. Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how I enjoy setting eyelets in my leatherworking. Eyelets are different from grommets, but a lot of the same concepts line up, so let's get started. So these are the materials we're going to be using. You're going to use a large granite block of some sort to give you a very stable surface to hammer on. Here I have a little cutting mat, 6 by 6 inches, and it's about half of an inch thick, and that way you don't have to worry about cutting through it. It's also a self-healing mat, so you don't have to worry about like chunks coming out for the most part. There are two different sizes of eyelets that are very commonly used. Here we have the 1/4 inch sized eyelet, and here we have I think it's like 5/32. I don't know, it's the other size that they carry at Tandy Leather. I'll have the links for all of the tools and materials used in this video down in the video description below. But these ones I use almost more decoratively than I do for actual function because it can be difficult to thread your different materials through these smaller eyelets, but they are definitely functional. I typically prefer to use the 1/4 inch pieces just because, especially like on corsets and things, it makes it much easier to lace it up. So you'll want a corresponding hole punch size to go with each eyelet. And you can kind of see here, I like this one because they're roughly the same size. Then I like these ones because they're roughly, again, the same size. It's really ideal if you can get one that fits inside the other one, but on some of the thinner leathers, I prefer it to be a little snugger. So I'm actually going to demonstrate to you how to set some different eyelets. And here I have two different thicknesses of leather. This is about a 3 ounce and this is about an 8 ounce. But you can see the difference in thickness. And so we're going to start by punching our hole. And so to do that, we just have our mat here on the board. Make sure it's nice and even. And I'm going to place our hole punch, and I'm hammering it with a rawhide mallet. Just pull that out. You want to make sure you get a good clean cut all the way through. And I'm actually going to go ahead and punch the hole for the 1/4 inch eyelet as well. And I save all of these and put them in my house plants as a little like a mulch to let them break down. Now this also, we're using a vegetable tanned leather here, but you could use oil tanned, all different kinds of stuff. The only thing, and I'll show you whenever we get over to the thinner leather, that I'm going to go ahead and hole punch as well. Sometimes, oops, didn't mean to hit the camera. Sometimes the eyelets can behave differently on thinner leathers. So there we are. And see that one, I didn't quite get a very clean cut all the way through, but it'll be all right. So now we're done with this. And I'm going to use our we have our little anvil, and you can see how the eyelet sets in there. Now with a grommet, you'll have a different size, shaped base. We'll do a different video for that too, because it takes a different tool. But this piece is very similar to 1/2 of a grommet. But whenever you're working with this, you want to make sure that the leather that you're putting it through isn't thicker than the depth of the eyelet. If it is, you'll need to go down and use like a skiving knife and shave off some of the thickness of the leather. And I recommend doing that on the fleshy backside as opposed to the smooth surface. But you'll put it through the front side, and then we're gonna line that up. It kind of like settles right into place, and you can kind of see here how it's lining up there on the inside. If it's not aligned, see how that kind of happens? You want to make sure it's nice and snug. And then we're going to take the appropriate pestle or driver and settle it in there. And again, I'm going to bring this up so you can see how it just nestles right in to the neck of the eyelet. Just putting that in like that. You can wiggle the leather, make sure it's all settled, and then I'm going to hammer it. And you can see the way that this is shaped, it forces this around and rounds it out. That way there's no pokey bits. There's no pokey bits. You can see there's a little bit of an imprint because I kept hammering around it in a circle. That's less than ideal, but that can buff out. And now I'm going to do the thinner, or the smaller eyelet. My house is on a curve, or a slant, apparently. And so again, this one, it nestles very comfortably down into its anvil base. Then we'll just slide right side down of our leather over it, just like that. And then we're going to use the appropriate driver to just settle it in there. And just drive it down. And you can see how that comes down and around nice and clean, no splitting, nothing. And that's how I set eyelets. Now for comparison, I'm going to do this on some thinner leather. And this is something that frequently I run into splitting of the eyelets. And so you want to give it some good solid hits with the hammer to help keep it from splitting. Something too that is, if you keep running into that, you can actually make a little bit of a washer. And the way that I would do that, and again, keep your artistic discretion in mind. If it's something that's just not going to work for that project, then don't worry about it. But here I have cut out a little piece of leather, and I'm just going to trim the edges down a little bit. You could use contact cement or fabric glue, or sorry if you can hear my dog grunting. That's Sam Dog, our new video editor. But I've trimmed it down a little bit. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to use the same size hole punch. Get a nice clean punch through. And then from here, you can actually trim it down further. And if you have it, you could use a much larger hole punch to make like a donut. And then you can just slide this right over and double the thickness of your piece. And so you would take that and lay it on there. And so we're going to settle this into place right over that and use the appropriate driver, just like this. Sorry for the shadows. And I'm going to hammer it down like that. In there we have no movement with the eyelet, a nice clean back. And now I'm going to show you with the smaller one how it can look if you do it without the wrong base, without this washer added in. Because I mean that can poke into the skin a little bit if you're doing like along the edge of a bracer. Like here we have a kind of thinner bracer. You could actually flip it over and do a narrow strip like of reinforcement along the back if you wanted. But that's not always necessary. So I'm just placing that, and you can see how much is protruding through. I mean, that's, 3, almost 4 millimeters worth of tube of the eyelet protruding through the leather. Check and make sure it's in a good spot. Get my hand out of the way. And so this one you can see is coming down quite nicely. It's rolling without splitting. That's a nice good, there's still a little bit of movement. Like if I grip down on the eyelet, it's not really holding on to the leather yet. So I'm going to hammer it just a little bit more. And now there's no movement. I prefer for it to have no movement. I like a nice stable connection. But I am going to go through, and I have the splitting more commonly on the thicker, or not on the thicker, the larger eyelets. So I'm cutting another hole. Yeah, sometimes if you don't cut through all the way, don't worry about it. Just come place your punch back on there and get that cut the rest of the way through. Throw some of your eyelets on the floor. It's okay. And I'm just going to place that through the leather. And then I'm going to place this, because I really do want to show you guys why I add in the washers, because sometimes it goes really well. Well, you know, today is just a good day of setting eyelets. Sometimes they will split on the sides, and whenever that happens, I just use the shaping of the end here, and I'll kind of angle it in different ways to get it to keep that smushed down. The way that I would remove these is I come in with my wire snips and I cut at little points and then use pliers to kind of peel and take it out if I need to replace one that gets messed up. So here I actually wanted to show you the functional application of using eyelets in a project. So here I have a small bracer. You can find the template for this design on my Etsy, or you can become a $10 and up patron and get access to all of my digital downloadable content, and that includes all of our templates and patterns. But we have our bracer made, and this would work for something of any size. You can see it's a thicker leather, you know, probably closer to a 6, maybe a 7 ounce. And you don't have to worry about using a washer, you know, on this thickness. It should be fine. And I'm just going to eyeball it and punch a hole. I'm going to try to not hit the the tripod. Oh, it didn't go through. Let's get a good clean connection. So there's 1, 2, and 3. I like eyeballing it because you can just kind of boop, boop, boop. Do the 2 ends and then the middle. If you don't like eyeballing it, you could use a tool called a wing divider and mark the center of where each of the holes would be. And this is in real time too, so you can see how quick of a nice finishing project this is. So we have our holes punched. And now we have the correct sized base. We're going to put the little eyelet on there, slide it right over, place our driver, and now there's 1. Place the eyelet, place the project and hammer. There's 2. Sorry, I have it off to the side here because otherwise I hit the tripod. But there you can see, and this layers really well even over the tooling that has a little bit of spare, you know, leather fuzzies in it. But and these are tarnish and rust resistant, and they're just right in there, and this will keep, you know, you can lace your lacing and stuff through to keep your leather from fraying or, you know, pulling out. It really helps distribute, especially if you're using a much softer leather. It keeps the holes from stretching. I really like using these on my leather corsets or any belts or anything that are going to be load bearing. So I'm going to do the rest of this and then I'll meet you right back here. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I hope that it was helpful to you and kind of maybe made setting eyelets a little less intimidating, because sometimes you can put in all the work and all the effort and then the tooling and the staining and everything, and then it's like, how do I put this on my body? And rivets are my go-to. I love lacing through them. I prefer them very much to grommets because they seem a lot simpler and I don't ever mess up as much with eyelets as I do with grommets. But I'll still do a grommet video, so keep an eye out for that. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe. I do new tutorials just about every day. Sometimes we throw in some live streams, sometimes I'm bad and miss a video, but we do our best to bring you daily tutorials on everything from leatherworking, polymer clay, wire wrapping, chainmail, general craftiness, and cosplay and different things. So thanks again for hanging out. If you enjoy our work and would like to support the creation of more of them, you know, like more free tutorials and more hands-on artist and education workshops and different things, please consider checking us out on Patreon. We also do our giveaways and digital downloadable content again too. So links for that will be down below, and pledges can start at just $1. And I really appreciate all of y'all's support and encouragement and everything that you guys do for us. You inspire me to keep going and keep trying my best. So thanks again, guys. Happy crafting, and bye.